Bay West Church meets at 100 Emerson Road in Palm Bay at 11 a.m. on Sundays. We're glad you decided to check us out. God has a specific message of hope for your life and mine today. So listen up.
I'm going to tell you right now, I really am glad to be here in ways that I normally am not. Because I'm telling you, this week was a difficult week. And you're like, well, but Jim, Alabama won the national championship. And I'm like, yeah, I know that. I got that. But I'm going to tell you right now, it didn't feel like a national championship week for me. Last Sunday night, I met with a couple who's about to get married, and it was a great meeting and everything. And after about 15 minutes or so, sitting there, I started feeling kind of hot and feeling weird. And I went and laid in the bed, and I'm just telling you, I woke up somewhere around that evening, and it was like just there was nothing left within me. You know how you feel like that? And all of a sudden I realized something that I have not had for years. I don't think maybe since I was a child. But I actually realized for a second I have the flu, and I was thinking, you know your body, right? You got it. You know what's happening, and you're sitting there, and you started feeling bad, and I'm getting the cold sweats, and then it's all hot, and you get under the you get cold, you get under the covers, you sweat up a storm, and then you're about to feel like you're exploding, you're throwing your covers off, and then immediately you throw the covers off, you're freezing again. And so my poor wife, who sleeps in the same bed with me, is dealing with that all night long. I got up at 3, I got in a recliner, it was that type of deal. And then, on Monday, I figured, well, you're a man, right? And men, you know what I'm saying. You don't go to doctors. Man, we're just going to wait it out because you know what's going to happen. We're men. We can handle it. Just got to handle through, So I figured I'll take a day off work, and I stayed in the bed, and it started getting worse. That started getting worse. Then my throat started hurting. And it was like you were taking a cheese grater and running up and down my throat. You ever felt like that? You know what I'm talking about? Thanks, Jim. Appreciate that visual. Yes. That's what it's feeling like. And I got the national championship coming up, and I can't even barely speak, on Monday night because I'm a huge Alabama fan and everything, and yet it worked out good for us, but I don't remember much of it. I'll be quite honest with you, just little bits and pieces here and there. But so I tell my wife the next morning, and I haven't done this. I don't think have I ever done this since we got married? As I looked up and I told you, I said, babe, I need you to take me to the doctor. I can't drive. I can't. I've got to go. I can't take it. So I get there, and I'm describing to the lady. I'm like, well, I got all this fever, and I'm sweats, and I feel terrible. I got no strength, but now my throat is burning. And she's like, well, you know what? It sounds like you got strep, but then it also sounds like you got flu. Well, let's just test you for both. And guess what? Double whammy. Got them both, consolidated sick days. So this week, I don't remember too much about the week. It hasn't felt like a championship week. But I got finished with my medicine yesterday, and for the first time in ever, I have energy. And so I'm really excited to be here to speak to you guys. I really, really am. And talk about vision. Because I was worried. Bruce called me in the middle of the week. He's like, man, dude, you sound, oh gosh, do we need to postpone this? And I'm like, no. We're going to make it. We're going to trust. And I tell you a lot of things that God has done for us this last year. He's been like that all the time. It's just, everything's going to pot, and you're like, what's going to happen? And all of a sudden something shows up, and boom, there it is. From big things to little things. Little thing just recently, man. I mean, I just, anybody keep all their their digital photos and stuff on one computer? Anybody do that? You keep on one computer, your children, the important things, their birth, stuff like that. You better have it backed up, because I want to tell you, in December, my hard drive just stopped. It just stopped, and I've got one dude who's like, everybody has the one dude that's a super computer guy, and I take it to him, and dude, he's been working on it for literally since the middle of December. And every message I get is, well, Jim, I'm sorry, dude. It's just, I'm trying one more thing. I'm freezing the drives now, and I mean, we're doing all those type of things. I mean, this is a serious guy. Well, I got a message this morning that said, guess what? Praise the Lord. You just said, I don't know what happened, but last night everything just started to work, and you got over 99% recovery of your drive. It's like the only thing missing is this one little folder that says Bay West business stuff, and I'm like, I don't care about that. Come on. Yay! So it's a good day. It's a good day for many reasons. This week I got a new tennis racket for Christmas, man, and I've been sitting there all week. I'm just staring at it, man. I wish I could play with you. I just can't do it, but now I'm feeling like this week, it might be the week. I'm ready to roll. But it's a good deal. It's a good day. It's been, in all honesty, I think about today, we've got this student meeting right after our service. And God's really carried us through a tough transition and brought a really great couple, Jake and Heather. They came and carried us through a transition this last year. Now we have a new team. We have the McClures and the Cassiuses that are stepping up to lead our students. And we're having a meeting right after the service, and it's going to be really great. I'm really excited about all that stuff. It's been a good year. In a lot of ways, I know a lot of people talk about, 2017, but there's been a lot of good in 2017 just as well. I think about for our church, it's been pretty amazing. If you're new here, if you're a guest with us today, rock on. So glad you're here. I will come up and cough on you after the service is over. No problem. And send you home with a gift. But right now, I just want to tell you, it's been a good day. It's been a good year for us. We announced on this stage just about a year ago, Katie and I and Bruce sat up here and did a little interview and then sprung on everybody, hey, we've been a campus for 8 years. I think 7 years, a little over 7 years at that time, at First Baptist Church of Melbourne. And then we're splitting. We decided that this was the year, we've been praying about it for 3 or 4 years, that we need to launch as our own church, completely separate. And we finished last year. It was a step of faith, because I'm going to tell you, just from a financial perspective, end of 2016, we took in about half of what it takes to run this campus. I'm just going to tell you. We had made the decision earlier in the year, hey, we need to go. God says it's time. And then God finishes the year and it's like half as much. And I'm like, what in the devil's going on? What are you doing? It was a scary moment, but we sat up here anyway. We moved out in faith and we launched, and throughout this year, God has been extremely faithful. Looking at our past, it's been a good year. In this past year, we've grown about 30%. In our attendance, which is, that's just a little thing, but it's good that people come. That's nice. I'm glad you're here. All you people look beautiful. I'm glad you came here. Tell your friend that they look beautiful too. But I'm glad you're here, and we've grown about 30% in attendance, which has been great. And during that time, we've seen people become disciples. We've seen people come to know Jesus. People that don't normally come to church come. People that haven't come to church before do. People that didn't know who, believe it or not, in Palm Bay, in Florida, some people don't know who Jesus is. And we've had people that don't know who Jesus is start to know who Jesus is and see that start changing their lives for the good. That's been great. Financially, it's been an unbelievable year. I don't know what happened. I guess it was Bruce's cologne, because when he came over here, we did the interview. It's like immediately the giving just started going, pew! And we almost doubled our giving from the year before this last year. And we almost gave his double. We're still not quite there to self-sufficiency, but that's okay. God's provided completely. We're well within the donut hole. It's amazing the way that's going. And here's what's cool. In just out of the blue, I don't know what happened. Everybody started tithe, and there it was. And then all of a sudden, all this money started rolling in, and we're taking care of our bills, which is great. That's good too. But on top of that, more starts coming in. We were able to help on top of all the stuff, just the tithes that people bring in. On top of that, we've had people come in. We've been able to give money to missionaries that were in Asia, working with Uyghur people who are now in Europe. We've been able to help support them. We've been able to help support the Puerto Rico effort. We've been able, Alberto and Mary Elba just jumped in there and helped. Well, AJ, you always come along with that. So you were there at the post office with us. So you're on the man. So and people gave money, and we were able to send shipments directly to people. Who's calling me, man? I will. Hello? Yeah, I'm preaching right now. Yeah, you didn't expect that, did you? I love you. We'll talk later. I have no idea who you are. That's okay, all right. Anyway, so... I didn't see that coming. That's going to be a fun conversation later. So, what's going on? Actually, I could tell a story about that I have friends that their preacher friends, if they get out early, they call on purpose just to see if their phones are on. Yeah, I'm serious, it's fun. That was not that. But anyway. So where were we? It's been a great year. We were just, all this stuff's coming in. We've been able to help with the relief effort to Puerto Rico when our government was even having problems getting them to the right people, getting stuff to the right people. Alberto and Marielba, just God blessed us with people in our church who have personal friends who run old folks' homes and who have medical missions in Puerto Rico that we can just mail it directly to them. And so we did, and we were able to help with that. Not only that, we had Chris Height come in. I'll put it this way. We were able to work with the relief effort in Irma. We were able to send a team from people from our church to go help with disaster relief, and we gave money to that to help that work out from Irma. Not only that, you remember in November, we had a guy named Chris Height who used to be a pastor at Discover Life who's starting a church. Actually, it kicks off publicly next Sunday in Port Orange, Florida. And you guys were so stinking generous. It's ridiculous, man. We did a love offering for them, and you guys gave them supplies to help start their church. And then last week, oh man, I forgot to put that picture in. Shoot, that's all right. Last week, they came down, and a lot of our cabinets, we used to be portable and meet in a school. We just had cabinets laying around. Why are we laying these cabinets around? These could help somebody know Jesus. So we talked with Chris, and Chris's dad brought a trailer over, and we took a bunch of our cabinets and we stacked them into that. I don't know how they got there, but they did because it's a little big trailer and those are big cabinets. But we got them in there, and Chris, he Facebooked me last week. He said, "Man, this is so great. Thank you for those cabinets. They're really coming in, and they're really coming in. They're really making good use for us because we had to scrimp on the budget for storing things because that's where we were cutting short. But your cabinets made a whole lot of difference. So we've got things we've been able to send and do that. I mean, it's just been amazing what we've been able to do this past year as a church. And that's just from being financially generous and trusting the Lord. It's been amazing to see what's been going on. Our groups are growing. Bruce has come on board. He's in charge of our groups now. We have some of the healthiest groups that we've had since we started Bay West. And I am as serious as a heart attack. It's an amazing, amazing situation to be in right now. It's an exciting time to be a part of Bay West Church, to realize all the stuff that's happened. We look to the future. I still have goals. A lot of the futures, I want us, there's at some point, we've got land on Malabar. We're going to build down there at some point. I feel like that's what God has for us. I'm just waiting on Him to when that time is to come. But that's not where we're not stopping there. I want to start a second campus of Bay West Church. I want to expand throughout Palm Bay because I really believe that the way we're going to reach Palm Bay is not through one person on a platform who's a really good speaker, but it's going to be through everybody being bought into the vision and one by one reaching people throughout Palm Bay and making disciples on a one-by-one nature and teaching that person to make disciples who teaches other people to make disciples who teaches other people to make disciples. And that's how we're going to reach our world. It's going to be conversations. It's not going to be speeches. Okay? I believe that's how it's going to happen. And that's something that can be done. That's the vision. But how do you get to that vision of where we reach the entirety of Palm Bay? Yes, all 110,000 and then plus, because it's going to keep growing because all the new jobs, they just made our job harder, but that's okay. All right, so they can bring all new jobs in, new people in, people can buy more houses, and we'll just, we'll make more disciples. It's not a problem. That's good. It's job security. There we go. Always more disciples to be made. So we could do this, but how do you get from the past that we had to the future that we see? The only way to get from the past that you have is the same way for each and every one of us. The past that you have or that we have to the future that we see is to deal with the now that we possess right here. That's the only way to deal with it. You can't be a pie-in-the-sky dreamer that thinks one day in the future we're going to have, yeah, okay, hooray, and I'm just going to sit around and eat ice cream and think about that. You have to deal with right now and who you are, who I am, who we are right now. That's the only way to get there. That's the only way to deal with it. And what is in the middle and in front of us is the vision that God has given us. And how do we employ that right here, in this moment, this second, on January the 14th, on 2018? How do we deal with it? Well, first we got to understand what our mission is. Now, our mission statement, it's the focus, our mission, our focus in on this vision that we have for the future. The mission here at Bay West Church has been for a while. This is making disciples here and everywhere for the glory of God. This is all about making disciples. This is about growing a great organization and making a cool brand. All of those things are subheadings under the big thing, which is making disciples. That's what it's all about. All this comes from Matthew 28, 19, and 20. If you've been around church much, you know there's a little nickname for these verses, the Great Commission. If you haven't, I just gave you some trivia. Man, impress your friends. There you go. If they throw out, the Great Commission, you can go Matthew 28, 19, and 20. Haha, I know. But anyway, we've got that up here. Let's read that. Okay. Got to click it. It should. There you go. Perfect. And you're probably going to have to do another one. So, to get the second there. Oh, we go. Yes. Boom. So, Matthew 28, 19, and 20. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you, and be sure of this, I am with you always, even unto the end of the age. This is the last thing that Jesus said before he left the earth. Guys, girls, kids, you know this. If your mama leaves you at the house and they give you one instruction before they walk out the door, that is the one thing you better have done when she gets back, or your tail's going to be in a crack. Okay? That is exactly what Jesus did here. He said, look, I'm leaving, man. I am driving off. This is car doors shutting, and I'm elevatoring up to heaven, and that's it. On a hilltop. And he looked at the guys and said, look, dudes, here it is. You therefore, he said right before this, all power has been given to me. All power and authority has been given to me in this earth. Everything. And instead of saying I'm going to cure every disease, instead of saying that I'm going to give everyone a job, instead of saying that I'm going to make sure everyone has a house and a cool car and all this stuff to make them feel really cool and they can watch Netflix all day long and never have to go to work, instead of all of that stuff, here's what I'm going to do for you. I want you, therefore, since I have all the authority, I command you to do this. Go and make disciples. If there's one thing I want you to do before I bring my rear end back down to this earth, is you better be about making disciples. You got to look at that like a mama. That is a mama command. If Katie leaves the house and says, Jim, mow the yard, I'll be back in an hour. I know what's about to happen. I have to mow the yard before Katie gets back. Now, she doesn't do that. I'm just giving that as an example. But I've heard you leave and tell the kids, look, I'm going to the post office, and you need to fold up these. You need to do your job by the time I get back. And they need to do it because it's not good when they come back, and she ain't done it. But that's what we need to look at this. And it's not just go and share the gospel with people. That's great. That's not where it stops. It's not just go, well, I'm going to tell you this information and then run away and tell somebody else. That's not just what it's about. You got to do that. You got to be vocal. You got to be able to share the gospel with people, the good news that, look, hey, your life's screwed up. Yes, it is. We all know that. Nobody thinks they've been perfect. Those people are deranged. Everybody's done something wrong in their life. The problem is they don't know what to do to deal with that. The Bible says if you've done one thing wrong, you've broken the entire law and you're just messed up. And everybody wants to hide that fact. God is exactly the opposite. He says, no, I want to expose that fact. Let's don't freak out about that. We all know that's true. That's why I sent Jesus to come and live a perfect life so that I can take care of the mess that's in your life. I'm not asking you to do it. I want to do that. I want to do that for you. Because when I do that for you and you see what I can do in your life, you're going to go, wow, God, you're awesome. And you're going to know how awesome I am. That's the gospel of Jesus. So he sent Jesus, he lived on the earth perfectly, and he died on a cross, and he took the punishment for all of our sin and everything that we can do. And he says, look, when you join back to me, when you give your life over to me and you begin to follow me, I can correct the things that go on in your life, and I can give you a life that was better than you could possibly ever dream or imagine. That's the absolute gospel. That's why we tell us. It's not just telling that, but it says, teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I've given you. That's making disciples. And part of that is saying, look, that's when I come to somebody, I share that gospel with them, and I say, okay, I'm going to walk with you how to do this. I'm going to teach you how to read your Bible every day. I'm going to teach you how that applies to earth. But I'm going to teach you that your responsibility is to also go find somebody else and share that with them, and you sit down and share the things that I gave you to that person and teach them to do the same. Because we have to understand, if we're going to make disciples, we're going to know what disciples are. What is a disciple? What is a disciple? You can't make what you don't understand, right? We know what a disciple is really from Matthew chapter 4, verse 19. And this is something that Jesus called out to them. He's called out to the disciples. He said, look, come follow me, and I will show you how to fish for people. Sometimes you've seen that. It's been, come follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. I love that. I will make you. I will show you. I will do. This is something God's going to do in your life when you follow him. Here's what a disciple is. Real quick. One, someone who knows and follows Jesus. In other words, you know who he is, you know what he's about, and you follow him, and you do what he's going to do. You know, a lot of people say, well, a lot of people say, well, I don't know how to follow Jesus. Well, you do what Jesus does. You head in the direction that he goes. You follow Jesus, he knows that from the Word. He shares that with us from the Word. But you know when you follow Jesus. Not only that, but, excuse me, guys. Woo, trying to stay with that. Look, you know and follow Jesus. You also are becoming more and more like Jesus. Jesus is making you into something. If you're following Jesus, if you say you're following Jesus and you're not becoming more like Jesus, you're doing it wrong. There's another way. Because if you're following Jesus, he will make you. You're not going to have to autocorrect all your habits and autocorrect all your junk. God is going to be in your heart, and he's going to do that over time. He may not do it as fast as you want to. He may not do it in the way that you thought it would happen, but that is his job when you submit and give yourself back over to him. He will take care of that. So it's someone who knows and follows Jesus, someone who's becoming more and more like Jesus, but also someone who leads people around them closer to Jesus. That is what happens when you are a disciple. There's no way around that. This is what a disciple is. And if you are following Christ, if you're a disciple of Christ, this is the track that you're going to see on your life. You're going to see it. You know? But how the thing about it is but how do we do that? How do we get from point A to point B there? I'm going to give you a little bit of secret. You know, everybody in the church in America, you know, they know this. But here's what you don't see it happening all the time, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But how do we do this? How do we do that? This is how we do it. The process is very simple. First, you have to become a disciple. Well, Jim, that's pretty common. Yeah, it is. It is, but there's big reasons for that. One reason is you can't create what you are not. You know that? I have children. They're human beings. They're because Katie and I are human beings, and I'm not an alien. That's why they're human beings, because we created what we were, okay? And in your life, you can't create what you're not. Second reason you need to become a disciple is you cannot lead people where you're not willing to go. Okay? I can't take you and say, hey, let's go follow Christ, and go, I don't really want to do that. Why don't you? What are you going to do? You're going to look at me and go, you're nuts. There's a reason he's not going over there. It's obviously something bad that he wants me to do, and they're playing a joke on me or something, so I'm not going to do that. I mean, there's myriads of reasons you're not going to do that. I'm all about pointing people to Jesus, but here's what I would rather you do. Take them to Jesus yourself. Show them how to go. You know, leaders are not the best. The leaders are the people that go first. Just go first. A lot of times what leaders do is they go first and they inspire the better people to say, hey, I could do that better. And they go and do it better. And that's what happens. And that's great. Not only that, but because you can't lead someone that you're not, somewhere you can't lead someone somewhere you're not willing to go, but also you cannot, here's the deal. We talked about you cannot create who you will not become. The flip side of that is you will create whatever you are. Okay? And here's the scary part. And this happens sometimes in church, you know. We come to church, or a church in America, or wherever, whatever it is, and we're not disciples, and we try to create disciples when we're not disciples, and what we make are things that are not disciples, and then we go out, and that is our testimony, that is our marketing plan, that is our view, that is our example of how to follow Jesus, and they're not following Jesus, and the world looks at them and finally figures it out and goes, that's nuts, that's not working, I don't believe that, that must be what following Jesus is, so I'm not going to do that, but it's not. Becoming the most relevant person on the planet. Being the most culturally in tune person on the planet. Being the most socially conscious person on the planet is not what following Jesus is about. Following Jesus is about following Christ, putting Him first, doing whatever He said, not what everybody else said, not trying to twist what He said into what I want, but following Him and making disciples and seeing Him do great things most of the time at my expense. Do you realize when God has to heal something in my life, it's because there's something wrong with me? And when God heals something in my life, it means I have to show others, hey, Jim was jacked up. And God did this in his life. It's not always, hooray, Jim is the greatest person in the world and God. No, no, no. I'm the subject in which God shows His power through my life and makes me better than I was. And praise God. And that's fine. You know, if I go through this life and people get to the end of the world and they go, Jim was the biggest loser in the world, but I can't believe God used him. God must be powerful. There you go. Mission accomplished. We're all happy, and I'm fine with that. Are you? Are you willing to take your story and give it to Him? Are you willing to become a disciple? Because when you become a disciple, the next thing is that, and the reason that it's important for us to realize that we have to become disciples, we have to invest in God's family, because God does not outsource the family business. God is not in any way interested in bringing people along that don't know Him, that aren't a part of His family, that don't follow Him to accomplish the things that He's ultimately wanting to do. He wants to do that through His kids. And that's why He offers that to all of us, to become a part of His family to do this. But not only do we become, but we also build disciples. And you might say, man, I don't know, man, I could probably be a disciple, but I don't know how to build one. Here's the thing. If you are one, you can't help but build one. It is the natural outgrowth of when God steps into the life of a person that there becomes more people around there that are drawn closer to Christ. Because why? They see what God's really doing in your life, and that's a great testimony. You'll speak about it, and you know what? Let me tell you something. You're probably going to speak about it, and you'll sound like a complete moron at some point. Yes, you will. I don't understand how to say this, and I'm trying to explain this to you, and you go, Jim, I understand that. I listen to you every week. And that may be true. And that's fine. But the point about it is as you explain and stumble over your words, and it's not polished, and it's not a marketing plan, and you don't sound like a spokesman on TV, people will begin to see the genuine realness in your life as God changes who you are, right where you are. Right where you are. And you begin to see, and that's the glory of God being shown in your life, and people will want to be a part of that. And they'll be looking to you because, hey, it happened to you. You were a total loser, and all of a sudden you're not. And how did that happen? And you can go, well, let me take you to Jesus, because that's the only one that I have no idea how I did it. I didn't do anything with it. The Lord did it. And you can share that with Him, and you build disciples. I want to tell you, there's a quote by a guy, he's an author and a pastor named Francis Chan. I love it. It says, we're called to go and make disciples, but we often sit around and make excuses. Somehow that gets translated into go make disciples, sit around and make excuses. Well, go make disciples. I don't know how. Just do it. Trust the Lord. The disciples, when they went out into the world, Jesus told them, look, don't worry about what you say to people. I'm serious. Go look it up. Don't worry. Holy Spirit will take care of that. When you stand in front of people who are a whole lot smarter than you and a whole lot of authority, don't worry about it. I'm not giving you a script. Holy Spirit will tell you what to say, and you'll know what to throw it out there. And look at us later, thousands of years later, the most dominant religion on the planet, one of the most effective, life-changing planet religions have come from following Jesus. And just some dumb, not very intelligent guys who just trusted, okay, well, if you say the Holy Spirit's going to tell me what to say, I are going to do it. And they did it. There you go. I think you and I can handle that. We don't have to be seminarians. It's not about seminary. It's about following Jesus. I love this as well. I heard someone say one time, and I think this is so true, said, look, if you're following Jesus and you're not making disciples, I'm not sure who you're following. Because that's what Jesus did. He made disciples everywhere that he went. This one dude out there, and all of a sudden people are just following and flocking around him. And you think about the 12, it's not just the 12, it's all these thousands of people that just couldn't get enough. And they come around and they're listening, and they're seeing what they're seeing is what he's doing in the lives of other people. And they're going, that's crazy. I want to go see what that's about. And they begin to follow him, and that's how all this stuff got started. The truth is, if you're following Jesus, you can't help but make disciples. I'm going to tell you a secret. Every church in America knows this. Every one. Every preacher, every church leader knows this. Yet for some reason in our world, in our United States, we consistently bombarded with statistics that tell us that church attendance is declining, that people are turning elsewhere for spiritual advice, for spiritual stuff. Why is that way? I'm going to tell you why. In a little bitty verse. You've probably heard it before. In Proverbs 29:18, it says this, so where there is no vision, the people perish. Now, a lot of people use that in all kinds of ways, but I want to share with you what that means for us. I mean, I tend to read in a lot of different translations that I read from the Hebrew Scriptures, because you know the Bible was written in Hebrew and Greek, right? So we're talking about another language that's not English. It was not written in King James. I'm sorry, okay? King James is a great translation. A lot of smart people put that together. But you know my spiel about, if you've been around here much, my spiel about translation. Translation is not just one word, means exactly the same as this word over here in another language. A lot of times when you do that, you're searching for concepts. You know, when I say dog, there is a concept of what a dog is. And I'm trying to communicate that concept to you. And sometimes if I use another language I'm going to have to use multiple words to make that work. Some of you people that are bilingual, you understand that. You should understand it more than anybody. And a lot of times when we look at multiple translations, as long as a translation is good and it's true to the word, it does not replace, but it expands and it rounds it out. Okay? Now, that's the King James Version. It says, where there's no vision, people perish. But I want you to look at one of the things it says, we don't have it, sorry. But one of the things it says, one of the ways it says, where there is no vision, it says, when people do not accept divine guidance. In the New Living Translation. Basically what it says is when you don't get on God's program, the people will perish. When you don't accept God's way over your way, the people will perish. Okay? It says if we don't commit to the vision of God, we are destined to perish. On an individual level, on an organizational level, on a planet-wide level. If we don't commit to the vision and accept the divine guidance that God has given us, there is only one end in that. And we can play around with it, we can delay it, we can try to put it off, we can pretend it's not coming, but it is coming, and there's no way around it. I love this part. It says, I love the way the NIV translates the second part. It says, the people perish. What they say is the people run wild. You could take that verb and you could translate it as they throw off all restraint. In other words, they have no direction. Let me show you what I mean. When you have no direction, here's what you do. You wander. I got this picture up here I found on the internet. I thought it was cool. It's kind of hard to see, but see, you notice that's a Google map, right? You can see that? All those little lines that you see, this family put a GPS on their cat. On their cat. I love you animal people out there, but if you got time to go buy and money to go buy GPS to put on your cat and just watch it, you need to find a job and a hobby. But I want you to look at this cat. You see the picture? It says, this is where we live. We live here, right? This cat's just all over the place. I mean, look at this cat. It's going like all over, just wandering around and making a mess. Do Do you realize that some of our lives, if we put a GPS on the direction of our lives, looks exactly like that? We're just wandering around. Got no real direction where I'm going. I'm just going to walk this way for a while. I'm tired. I'm going to walk this way over here and go over here. And that's just what's going to happen. Because the truth is when, when we don't have direction, you wander. The other thing is when you don't have direction, you waste. Look at this next picture I found. This is GPS. Somebody went to London. See it now? I want you to look. So they started on April the 8th, 2013 at 5:11. The recorded duration of this trip, all right, was 3 hours and 14 minutes to go 8 miles. I believe that was in a car, okay? Now you see where the start is. We're going to say this. You see where the two start points are, right? Imagine if you just drew a little line over to the left and you went around. I had one, but I didn't put it in. And went around and went up there. You realize how quick you could possibly get there if you actually realized the path that you had direction to go? Boom. But they wasted 3 hours of their life just kind of, no, can't go here. Swing around back over there. Okay, we're going to go. Look at I love in the corner over there. Kind of do a little circle. I'm going to draw like a cannon or something, and I'm going to swing back this way. And I mean, what? You waste. When you don't have direction, you waste. But I'm going to tell you something else. When you do have direction, what you see in your life is you win. I got this. This is the biggest win, people. I just want you to know. On the left is our church here, a church where we're meeting. This is where we're meeting right now at 100 Emerson Drive. On the right is Moe's Southwest Grill. Home of the most awesome JC that you've ever eaten in your life. John Cocktoastin. Don't mess yourself around with all the guacamole and stuff. You just get the cheese and the steak and you eat it. It used to be better. They had Carvel ice cream, but they got rid of it. I've lodged my complaint. But that's okay. Do you notice how straight that is? In 11 minutes, I can be there in total hog heaven, eating a JC. I could do that. When you have direction and you see the direction and you just go to the direction, you win. That's what happens there. And what I want to say, when I was listening the other night, I talked about the Alabama football game. I listened to Nick Saban after the game, and you listen to all the players. They all sound the same. It's like they've been brainwashed or something like that. I don't know. But they're all about, well, we're on the process. We're doing the thing. We're not worrying about the stats and stuff. We're doing every day what we need to do. And when I listened to him talk about it, he says, look, the way we won the championship is that everybody on the team got on board with the process. Everybody. The trainer, who you don't know, got on board with the process. The dude that's like in street clothes that's just hanging on to be there got on board with the process. And they went to practice. And they did the things that they needed to do in practice. And they did it to the best of their ability. And when they went out of practice, they studied on the film study, on that they had to do personally to develop themselves. And then when it came to the last thing, the game, everybody warmed up the way they're supposed to warm up. I don't know whether, and the people that were supposed to play played. And all of a sudden, look, at the end of the day, national championship, 5 in the last 9 years, which is unheard of. Especially in this particular climate, which I'm not going to try to explain about how hard it is to do that. That's amazing. But it was because everybody individually bought into the vision. And that's just a dumb football game. What if? What if? Okay, let's talk about stuff. This is all crazy. We're going to talk crazy a minute, okay? What if? What if you and I just simply bought in to the vision and the mission of Bay West Church? Because the way you get from the past you had to the future you see when you deal with the now you have is you focus on the vision that's in front of you and you buy into it. That's how you do it. I want to show you something. Let's do a little experiment. Let's say 60 people in this room decide to get on board with the mission. That's maybe about half, maybe close to maybe 2/3, between 2/3 and half or so. The people in this room said, okay, well, I'm going to get on board with the vision that God has, the vision for this church, the vision for here. This and you did just this. This year, you decided, I'm going to make disciples of two people. 6 months, I'm going to spend meeting with somebody and show them how this works. This is how you follow Jesus. This is how you make decisions. This is how you do that. And I'm going to teach them that they need to do that for other people. And then at the end of 6 months, I'm going to find somebody else. We'll go do that. First year, we had 60 people. At the end of year 1, that would make 180 people. All right? You go to year 2, and you have 180 people. And everybody does that again. All the people that you made disciples of, you do it again. Okay, 2 people next year, 540 people. Year 3, you get to year 3. Those 540 turn into 1620 by the end of the year. Okay, year 4, 1620 turns into 4,860 people. And this year, still just dealing with 2. You're dealing with 2. 2 new. Right now, you've met with 8 people in 4 years, yourself, and we're looking at 5,000 people, disciples made in Palm Bay. Look at year 5, for Pete's sake. 4,860 becomes 14,580 people. Year 6, 14,580 people becomes 43,740 people. You want to change your city, that's changing a city. You don't have to elect a soul. You don't have to change a thing you do other than get on the mission. In year 7, look what happens. 43,740 becomes 131,220 people. And we don't have enough people in Palm Bay to start with there because we've already exceeded the population of your city in 7 years from 60 people just in Bay West Church. But let's don't stop there. Let's keep going. Year 8, you've got 131,000 becomes 393,660. Year 9, the 393,000 becomes 1.1 million people. And think about this. Year 10, 1.1 million people has now become 3.5 million disciples made in 10 years. And I've met with 20, and you've met with 20. But this is what has changed the face of our county and our community and our city. I read on Facebook about a friend today who's threatened in their home because the people next to them don't know Jesus and have no direction. And they have thrown off all restraint for their life. And she's afraid for her and her children. You change their lives, you change the community, but you don't change it until you get serious about the vision of what God has given you. And until you get serious about the vision that God has given you, the only result is that you will perish. The second end of that verse says when you accept God's guidance, you receive joy. And that's what comes. But until it comes, it's just that simple. I'm going to make a choice. I'm going to get on board with God's vision, and I'm going to accept the non-joy, and I'm going to perish. I'm going to not know where to go. I'm going to wander around in my life. I'm going to waste my time here running from one thing to the next because I think I've got a better answer than God, but I don't. But that's it. That's all it is. This is not rocket science. This is not spending thousands of money to go to graduate school. This is saying this. Look, one foot in front of the other. Day in, day out, I'm just going to commit to this vision. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be the greatest Bible scholar ever. I'm just going to meet with people like once a week. We'll hang out. I'll go shopping. I'll invite them to come with me. They'll see how I live. Maybe they come over and eat at the house sometime. They see how we live, how we follow Jesus. They'll see our mess. It's okay. They got mess too. But they are encouraged to follow Christ and to teach others to do the same. And that is something that is within the capability of every person, every man, woman, and child in this room and in every church in Palm Bay and in Brevard County. And if just 60, half of this room got on board with that in 10 years, we would be spilling over probably into other states and countries because we don't have enough people now that don't know Jesus. What an amazing situation that would be. You don't want to have to lock your doors at night? This is where you go. And it is right there within your grasp as simply as saying, I'm going to get on board with the vision.
Thanks Thanks for being a part of Bay West today. Bay West Church meets at 100 Emerson Road in Palm Bay at 11 a.m. on Sundays. Please feel free to check us out at baywestchurch.org, or you can follow us on Facebook at Bay West Church.